Hi and welcome to another episode in Stepping Into Your Space. Today I am talking to Andrew Trimble. If you're into sport especially, you will know him from Ulster and Irish rugby. I've known him a long time, so it's really just a bundle of laughs, to be honest. He's always good fun. So you will also now know him as Paris Sport Tech, which is a scheduling communications platform, but it's good to just chat to him about faith, rugby, family, and challenges, just how to face challenges. I hope that you enjoy the episode. Hi, so today I have Andrew Trimble on. For those of you that are into sport, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about, but there's many other sides to Andrew. I've known him quite a while, so it'll be good to discuss challenges. We were just talking about Hell Week. Is that what it was called?
Hell Week, yeah.
Yeah, and the Irish take on the SAS Who Dares wins. I probably shouldn't say that. I'm sure that's copyright or something. But that we're talking about challenges, and then also I'm going to unravel a little bit about faith. If you're happy to talk about that, Andrew, never want to shy away. And then also I want to talk about your tech company. Is that what we'd call it? Well, I'm going to let you introduce yourself properly. You go for it, because this is all about stepping into your space, which you've done for a long time now. I imagine your small children are probably already on the Ulster squad, learning from their dad. But tell me about you. Introduce yourself, sure.
Yeah, so my small children actually would have an interesting take on this. My 6-year-old son summarizes me. He would introduce me and he would say, "This is Daddy. He used to play rugby and now he watches rugby." So
there you go.
Yeah, that's their summary. But I suppose the slightly more nuanced version of that is, so I finished playing rugby 4 years ago, and now I'm a tech entrepreneur. I wouldn't really usually describe myself as a tech entrepreneur. I manage a tech company. We had I was able to identify a very specific problem whenever I was playing rugby, in that I felt like athletes were hampered and just didn't perform at the same level of clarity, or there was an issue around communication in sports teams. There still is a big problem out there with football teams, rugby teams, and a lot of other professional and college teams. It's Google Calendar, it's WhatsApp groups, it's email threads, it's whiteboards, and it's just kind of chaotic. And whenever you think about the typical profile of a high performance athlete, it's not distracted. It's single-minded, focused, and we weren't allowed to behave in a single-minded, focused way, because we had a clumsy kind of communication platform. So anyway, that's Keros. We developed Keros over the last 4 years. I haven't got a technical background, but I know that high performance environment quite well, so I was able to give a bit of insight there. That's what I'm doing now. That's the day job. And then other hobbies, I do a bit of podcasting. Technically, we have a rugby podcast, but I'd say the content is about 5% rugby and 95% just talking rubbish about movies and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, but isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great way to be. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
5 Live, when you go on there, you gotta love the chat.
Yeah, and I still get along to still involved in rugby from a kind of media perspective, I suppose. Do a bit of commentating, a bit of punditry. So it's still a passion of mine. Still love watching rugby and stay connected there. So yeah, a few things keep me busy, and that's not even that's just me. And then 3 kids keeping me on my toes. Very, very busy with them. Great crack. But hectic around our house. So Jack's 6. Molly is, what day is it? Molly is 5 in 2 days.
Okay.
Kitty's 2.
So she's only really tiny. The other thing is, I had your father-in-law here for a paint class.
Oh, did you? Right, yes. He's quite good, isn't he?
And I did not put 2 and 2 together until the very end. He was showing me paintings on his phone. And then I was like, that's Anna Trimble. That's Andrew Trimble. And I was like, oh, right. He was like, yeah, that's my daughter who got me this ticket. So that was cool. He's very good. Yeah.
Well, I saw a couple of pictures, and he's done a couple of classes. So I've seen a couple of bits. I'm not sure which one was the one he did in your class.
Flowers. He did a vase of flowers at mine.
Yeah, that was really good. It was very well done.
Obviously, the teacher, the leader.
It must be teacher plus talent, but he's very talented, obviously.
He is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, Anna's fluent in French. All these things just made me really like excited to like
She's
see her
not.
again.
She's
Oh well,
not feeling the
I'm sure
French.
she is. I've also pronounced it Kairos. Kairos.
Keros. I would go Keros.
The K.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell me a little bit about that, about what it's been like to build that. And it's interesting you should say entrepreneur. So I've been labeled that before, and I'm similar. I don't really find that very comfortable. It doesn't sit like, because I guess entrepreneur, what would you say entrepreneur is? I like to think of it as someone who's like reinventing all the time, reinventing for growth. But I think a lot of people just stick it on like their Instagram handle now.
Yeah, I think I suppose the reason why I would maybe shy away from it a little bit is just because of our conservative Northern Ireland. It sounds a bit pretentious. It sounds like, oh, that's a French word. Have you not got any English words to describe what you do? So that's the only reason that I would shy away from it.
Yeah, it definitely is. But it's, so you saw a niche, as you said there. How, so it's scheduling, isn't it? So it's all to do with like scheduling, communication, and it's all in the one place, isn't that right? Because is it an app yet? Is it an app?
It's an app. It's a mobile app and a
Cool.
corresponding web app. So most of the admin and kind of organization will be done on the web app, and then the players just use the mobile app. It's too oversimplified to say they use the mobile app to find out where they're supposed to be. There's a lot of different departments who would typically speak different languages and use different platforms. So it just makes it a lot more straightforward for the athlete to know what the requirements are. Requirements as in athletic requirements and non-athletic requirements. Non-athletic as in the necessary evil of being a pro sports person, commercial engagements, community engagements, sponsors, photos, travel, operations, that sort of stuff that you just want to do, get it done, get out of the way, and then get back to playing rugby again.
That's great. So that's another thing, so my podcast called How to Build a Creative Business. So you might not necessarily think creative is in that, but it's still hot. You're still finding a niche, and you built it from the ground up. You definitely have the strength then, don't you, of knowing, like, I can talk about art all day because I'm an artist, right? I can talk about the problem solving of that. So when you come from it the same way that you did, I take it that's when you pitch, you're able to have a pretty strong voice in that.
I think so. Yeah, I think for me in particular, there's a lot of guys, footballers, rugby players. There's a lot of athletes out there who they've just got an X factor, and they just know they're talented. They go out there and they just let their talent do the talking.
Yeah.
That's not the way I perform, and it's not the way most athletes perform. Being talented, and to the point we were talking about with Granda Patrick at the art class, being talented isn't enough. He had to go to an Ali McLaughlin art class. So I think sometimes you can just go out and let your talent do the talking. Sometimes you have to manage and you have to engineer a performance, and you have to. All athletes know themselves well. They know what makes them tick. They know what routine kind of gets the best out of themselves, and managing that. And I suppose just treating yourself like a product and giving it, nutrition, everything, sleep, even just, getting the reps in the gym, getting your athletic requirements, and then just your kind of psychological. And there's a lot of kind of sports psychology goes in now, and just finding out what your magic formula is, and then an app just to aid that and help that and allow any communication or any change of plans just be put in front of the athletes and just make it easier for them to thrive, I suppose.
Well, and I'm not surprised that there's a bit of a fun. Like, it seems quite fun. Not fun, but that's not a boring app. That sounds quite exciting.
It's fun. It is fun, and it's a big strength of our app is making it really simple and make it really, really easy to engage with.
Yeah.
But it's actually very complicated to make something look simple. So there's a lot of work goes on in the background, and it has to be compelling. The athletes have to enjoy using the app. They have to enjoy engaging with it, and it has to be to allow them to be better than they would be otherwise ultimately. So
but yeah. There's like youth teams and stuff, isn't there, using it as well? So is it teams or is it individual? Like me, if I was pro gymnast, like am I in your target? No,
it's team sports mainly. but we've had conversations with the European Ryder Cup team. So golf is a team sport ultimately, because there's numerous different kind of inputs into tennis. Could be a team sport very easily, but it's really any mechanism where you've got a number of different departments or inputs into a performer. So youth sports is slightly different to what we're doing. We kind of target that, I suppose, elite or professional athletes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you join a youth team, if you want to play football recreationally, you do that to make friends and have the crack and have a bit of chat in the group chat. Elite professional athletes don't do it for that reason. They do it because they want to be the best. So actually minimizing the chat as much as possible and just give them really concise, succinct information is a lot more effective for elite athletes.
I teach online as well, so I teach in person, like what your father-in-law was here for, but I have an online platform and it's called The Unintentional Artist, and I use this platform at the minute and it's breaking my heart. It's not very user-friendly. Well, it is. No one's complained to me yet, but it's not very easy for me to use. So we're constantly looking at apps, but I feel like I'd need investors before I start building my own app. There's places now, even probably since you started, you can now, you sign up to an app and then you have your own folder essentially on that, and you pay like quite a high monthly fee. How was that side of it, the construction, or did you have investors, or what way?
Yeah, we've taken in quite a bit of investment so far, and all of that's new to me. So I had to kind of learn a lot from scratch. And there's quite a lot of support in Northern Ireland, though. There's Tech Start is a branch of Invest NI, so they do proof of concept loans, or not proof of concept grants. Okay. So there's 2 tiers of that. If you're successful with one, you can kind of roll this out, and if you prove that you've basically validated, right, this is something that we can a market that we can capture, or a need a problem that's worth solving, then you get kind of the second tranche of that. And then I suppose you're at that stage, if you've got enough validation, then you can kind of get some investment and build a team and get some engineers. We've got a great team of engineers. We've got 5 engineers at the minute, really, really smart people. And maybe unlike a lot of engineers, our guys are a little bit slightly more social than a lot of guys, and we'd have them customer facing, and just got a great team, really good team, very, very clever. They're kind of future proofing our app with a lot of things that we're going to build on down the line, and different bits of value that we can add to the team. So all of that stuff is new to me, new to us, and every day we're trying to learn how to do that as best as possible. But it's a steep learning curve coming from pro sport into that.
I was going to just ask you about that. So not the same, okay, but I work a lot of nights at the minute, but I'm sitting at home with the laptop. I'm doing a lot of private teaching. We're back to like small groups, not the same, and I'm working a lot of weekends. When you were sport and like totally immersed in sport, your body clock, your diary was just not 9 to 5. Tell me about that.
It wasn't 9 to 5, but it's not 9 to 5 now. So, and that never really bothered me, as long as it was kind of organized and structured. That was okay with me. But it was being told where to be all the time. That was whenever I found it frustrating. Not frustrating, because you get so used to it. It's kind of culture shock whenever you come out of that, because you're going, well, who's going to tell me what time we're meeting today, or what I'm eating today, or what I'm doing, or I'm on the pitch at this time, seeing the physio after, I'm in the gym after that. You just get this schedule dictated to you, and that environment is necessary, but it also kind of stifles a little bit of creativity, I think. Just being on the treadmill the whole time. Whenever you if you win at the weekend, then you're straight into recovery mode, and then you're back into training the Monday morning. You do a review of what went well and what went badly at the weekend, and then you do a preview of what you're going to do in attack and defense for the following week. And it's relentless and it's constant, and it's very, very it's a selfish place to be, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices. Ultimately, by the end of it, I was really excited about doing something different, because I just wanted to get my teeth into a new challenge, new project, something completely different. I think it was perfect for me, because it was something completely different, but I was able to use a lot of stuff that I'd learned from my previous job and kind of bring that across. But yeah, there's an element of it does. I think it stifles a little bit of creativity whenever you're kind of on the treadmill and you get told what to do every day. And
But I guess it's like, sorry to interrupt you. I guess it's like education or anything. The one size doesn't necessarily fit all, but they have to have a system. So I suppose within sport and competitive sport at that level, there has to be a formula.
Absolutely. No, there has to be. And that there's no alternative to that. And you have to buy into what the team's doing, and the team is more important than the individual. And you buy into that for years. And then after I did that for 12 years. And at the end of that, then I was keen, just to try something different, broaden my horizons, meet some different types of people. You're in a bubble. You only spend time with fellas in their 20s, athletic guys in their 20s who love rugby. And then you end up, you just spend 95% of your time with that demographic, probably a wee bit unhealthy.
Yeah, you're like, there's a whole other world.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start to realize there's a lot more going on out there, and there's a lot of stuff that could be very interesting and different to what you're used to.
More so for the people that are listening who followed your journey in rugby. What was the highlight? It's kind of
for
question, but it's probably quite a good one to know the answer
yeah,
to.
two highlights, two kind of days.
Meeting Anna off the pitch, obviously.
Yeah. So yeah, on the pitch highlight, I suppose, was Paris 2014. We won the Six Nations, and it had been the first time we won the Grand Slam in 2009. But I wasn't really in the team. I was out of form, and but I played in 2014. I played really well, and it was just one of these seasons where everything kind of came together for me. And by that stage, I was kind of getting on a little bit. So I was a bit of a late starter. It took me a while to kind of realize what made me tick and what was important. And I got to grips with that, and then I got the best out of myself. But it was more for me, that was a brilliant moment to be a part of that. But it was more relief that I didn't let my career get away from me and not fulfill potential. So that was a big one. And then 2016, we played an exhibition game. It was a friendly ultimately against the All Blacks in Chicago. And the place was just packed with Irish people, absolutely loving their lives. And we beat the All Blacks for the first time ever in the history of Irish rugby. So to be a part of that, we beat the All Blacks twice more since.
Yeah.
But that'll always be the first day we beat them, and the fact that I was a part of that, and again shared that experience with some of the lads was very special. So those two highlights for me.
So I talk a lot about on here, like emotions and dealing with knowing yourself really well. Okay. It's like knowing yourself from your brain to your bones. The fact that you're able to articulate that the 2014 was something that was a real, like everything came together. Is that hindsight that you can look back at that? Or at the time were you like, I'm in my like whole flow of that, like this is working, or what, is that more reflection? Or when you were in it, were you like, this is my time? Because you were saying you were injured, you were saying 2009, because that's right. I remember being pregnant, seeing you 2011. You were playing Ireland then.
Yeah, no, I was always there, but maybe I felt like I wasn't quite fulfilling my potential. And it was 2014 was whenever I just kind of just hit a bit of form, and I realized what kind of made me tick and what I needed to do to get to that level, and then managed to get my performance up at that level. And it felt more like I'd been in teams, successful Ireland teams, Ulster teams in the past, but sometimes I felt like I was a bit of a passenger. Mm-hmm. Whereas in 2014, I felt like I was driving it. I was really a part of it, and I really deserved to be there. So it just felt different. It was in hindsight, but not like years later in hindsight. It was in hindsight as in the next day or that night.
Yeah.
I remember sitting down we got back and we were having a big kind of celebration, family and everybody coming down to Dublin, and we're having food and drinks, and there was a band and stuff there, and we were just having the crack. And I just went up to the room and sat down. I just remember just getting this feeling of just such satisfaction. Just felt a relief, satisfaction. Just felt like I've done what I've been talking about doing for so long. I've been part of this moment. No one can ever take this away from me. And there'll be bigger days in Irish rugby. Mm-hmm. Like there'll be way more successful Irish rugby players, but for me, I just felt like I'll not finish playing rugby and finish and feel like there was unfinished business. Yeah. At least I've accomplished this, and I'm very proud of this. And then having Anna there, and There were no wee ones at that stage, but just having Anna there to share that when I was down in Dublin, and just be a part of, a bunch of lads who had been kind of through a long process of building up to that was very, very special and very, very satisfying.
Brilliant. And what about so I was telling you there about me training for a marathon, which you probably won't be able to do now because of injury, but after this 18-mile run, which is the longest run I've ever done, last week, you are on this high, and I went straight to work, so I had to get up early, do my 3 hours run or whatever, and I have a heart defect, so I have to run pretty slow. So I would love to be running at pace, but it's kind of slow and anyway, finish it, I'm on like a total buzz. And then my friend, she's ran like 50 marathons and ultra marathons and everything, and I did actually say to her on the Monday, I was really like quite not low, but just like a bit flat, probably because of the injury, to be fair. But what's the come down of those type of things? Like, there's a lot now about mental health in sport, and I know in Northern Irish football, the players talk about, and I think actually there's quite a few Craig Gilroy and different rugby players in Northern Ireland too. What emotional baggage comes with the kind of highs and the lows?
Yeah, I definitely think there is something to that. And Rugby Players Ireland have been very proactive with that. I was part of one of the early kind of Tackle Your Feelings is the name of the campaign.
Okay, yes.
And it's a really useful way of just underlining and making guys, ultimately it's that sort of an environment. It certainly used to be way more of that sort of environment where don't be a softie, just get on with it, don't talk to anybody. If you've got issues, just keep them to yourself, or we don't want to hear about that. And I think even as I was playing, you can see young fellas coming into the team and really challenging that mindset and that culture. And I'd say by the end, whenever I was finishing, it had not transformed, but made massive progress. And it sounds like even since then, the alpha male, the one who dictates what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, that role I don't think exists anymore in the rugby changing room, because I just think everybody's a lot more appreciative, of people who are just like everybody else, who need to talk about stuff, who find stuff difficult, who get hurt and upset, and have just difficulties. And not every day, you're not a rock star, and you're not winning the Six Nations every day. Yeah. Quite often, you're knackered after running 18 miles and you've injured your psoas and you can't do the marathon that you've been really looking for. Ultimately everybody has those difficulties, and probably especially athletes, because you pick up an injury, you might miss the most important game of your life at the weekend. You might not get to, you might be fit, you might have done everything you can do, and the coach doesn't like you and you don't get picked for the weekend. So I think you develop this level of resilience as an athlete. But ultimately, if you're really resilient, you survive in that environment. But if you're not that resilient, then you either survive and you're unhappy, or you don't even stand the test of time. So it's a tricky place to be. And it's tough. And I think Rugby Players Ireland have done a really good job of just getting guys to be honest and be outspoken about that. And if he's happy to chat about that and he's happy to chat about that, then I can discuss this thing that seems like not that big a deal to me, but it's really important that I get back and share something with guys who ultimately care about me.
Yes. Speaking of resilience, I social, like I have a presence on social media. I don't get too much abuse, but when I do, I'm pretty like people can slag off my art all they want, but if they start like picking at other things or family, it definitely is hurtful. And certainly I think with sport, people think that they know the sport, like the sportman, the sports person better than, I guess, like tennis or anything, or rugby, whatever. Everyone has an opinion. How did you deal with that? As like, were you a teen? What age were you whenever you started?
Yeah, too young to be dealing with that is the answer.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but that was even before. Like, if you think social media is only now, like at its complete like peak, it dictates even how. You were talking about podcasts, like how we listen, how we watch, how we consume. Mm-hmm. Like back then, it would have been like, I guess, papers or people on the street. Northern Ireland's so small. Was it like that?
Yeah, it's so back then it would have been there would be message boards. I wouldn't really
Right.
have come across them, like Ulster rugby message boards by all the diehard fans. And I would have been always quite strategic about it. You'd get people who talk about this and they'd say, if you read it when you play well, you have to read it when you play badly. I don't agree at all. I only read it. I only ever go on to find out what people think about my performance if I know I've played really well.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking after myself. I need to feel good. So personally off the pitch, I want to feel good. I want to feel happy. I want to feel satisfied and feel popular and feel good, But even in terms of trying to manage my performance, if I go on the pitch not feeling good, I'm not going to play well. So I want to feel good. I want to fill my head with positive. I want everybody to think I'm a total rock star,
Yeah.
capable of dinner. So I would never go anywhere near Twitter, anything if I hadn't played well.
Well, and that you're already dealing with your own, it's that thing of like trying to say to someone, like I would mentor as well, and you're already dealing with the fact that it wasn't your best. So you're already dealing with your internal voices. So then to see anything else, you're like, why would you do that to yourself?
I know. No, don't do it. It's the only reason you do it is out of nosiness, and you'll let yourself down and you'll end up with something will stick in your head, and there'll be some stupid kid who knows nothing about rugby has made some stupid comment. And it's if you could see the real world example of that person sitting on their laptop or on their phone, you're going I can't, like, I need to be completely separated and insulated from that person, because and it's ridiculous that I would even be offended by that, because they know nothing. They're speaking from a position of ignorance. Even if they're speaking from a position of knowledge, which happens as well, it doesn't matter, because they don't know anything that I don't know about my performance. If you're honest and you're kind of, if you're kind of self-aware, I suppose, of what your performance is like.
Yeah, it is a bit of a scary world. The best for me was not to do with my work or anything, but I had COVID before the vaccinations, and it was like picked up by it was like, I don't know, it was one global channel, but it was on like 26 different channels and blah blah. And I thought, oh, everyone's gonna wish me well and like hope that I'm not dying from COVID, because my heart thing was so bad. But instead it was just people absolutely horrendous were like, she thinks that she had the flu. Has she ever had the flu? What an F in this, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, my cousin is a scientist, or she's like a biomedical scientist. So she got into like a full argument, and I had to say to her, please, like, you're not arguing with people who are rational. Like, majority of people that comment on those forums, or who, like, people have no filter anyway. They don't know what they're saying, but yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to say, at this, like before, maybe this time last year and a half ago, it was a bit of a witch hunt. If you got COVID, it's because you're on.
Yes. I was
what's she been up to?
I was a leper. Yeah.
And
we were the first ones Michael and I both got it, and it was terrible. And people who I hadn't even seen in person were messaging me and saying, I've just got a ping on my app. I think I maybe left something to your house. Like, I wasn't like at the door, like you don't get COVID through that.
Just sneezing, getting ready to sneeze. Someone thinking
I was blowing out the window. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, people are crazy online. But I just look at my own sons now, and I know you're younger than mine, but in the teens now, and you just think they're already dealing with so much, and the phone and sport and let down in sport already. Like, sport means a lot to my boys. So I'm trying to like manage how they process not being picked or things change. It is. So for you to then be in like on headlines of that, I just think it would have been, I'm sure your mom, you really realize who your best mates and your family are, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
A long wait time for you, but
yeah. And my mom used to, she was never that worried. If I didn't play well, she didn't care. Like, she didn't make a difference to her. She just was always so stressed that I was going to hurt myself. And anybody who would see her in the stand, she was behaving really weirdly, because she couldn't watch. She had to go to attend to support me, but she found it really difficult. It was 12 years of her really digging deep and doing what she felt, trying to be as supportive as possible, but she hated it because she was always so worried about her wee fella, her.
You're the
her
only boy. Are you the baby as well? And there's four of you, is that right? Or two, three sisters?
Three of us. I got two older sisters. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, she was just so worried about her wee. But my dad would have been different. Like he wouldn't have cared as much about my physical safety, let's say.
Yeah.
But he would have just been more disappointed from a rugby perspective if I hadn't played well, or if I had got criticism, probably.
What about the Hell Week? So tell me the challenges. Like, is it physically? You were saying you hadn't slept in that as well. And how does that translate into, like, you obviously have, I didn't see it, but I will watch it. I think I can watch on playback. But my sister-in-law said that you were just so consistent.
Yeah, no matter what you do, you get a hard time for the DS, the drill sergeants. So they hammer you, torture you, shout at you, scream at you, give you a hard time, criticize you, no matter what you do. So I thought the best tactic here is to keep your head down as much as possible, but then you get a hard time. They called me a grey man. Just, there's nothing worse than just being a grey man.
There's a grey man at the minute in Peaky Blinders.
Oh, is there? I'm not up to date with Peaky Blinders.
He's not very nice. You're not nice in that grey man.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
You mean like bland? You mean like vanilla? Like
vanilla 442, not just like not a leader, just you're just kind of, you're a passenger, you're letting the whole thing. But like I was just keeping my head down and trying to get through it. But they hammer you for whatever you do. If you were the outspoken leader, then they'd hammer you for that, for trying to be an attention seeker. So you never get anything right. And it was so I did it with a couple of friends of mine as well. Peter Stringer did it, and then Barry Murphy did it, who'd been from we do the podcast together. Yeah. So we were positioned across from each other. So I've never stared at anyone, because you have to stand to attention and you're just staring straight across. And I just know every inch of his torso, just like just him standing as boxers, me standing as boxers, and we're gonna get to know each other very, very well over the next few days. What's that?
Was it a full week?
It was, what was it, 5 days, I think.
Right.
4 or 5 days. I got it one day before the end. And I did, so the toughest thing we did was, you're jumping out of helicopters and doing kind of cold water swimming and stuff like that. That's not that tough, really. Okay. There's a few interrogations and all, and they kind of frighten you and, do all that sort of psychological stuff. And then there's a beach session where it's hours. You're hours on the beach. You know what time it is. You're woke up in the middle of the night. You hardly sleep at all. They wake up in the middle of the night and put you down a well at one stage, and then you're out in the grass, kind of doing all these different activities. And then the beach session was just hours of kind of pulling, like, we tugboats up and down the sand dunes, in the water, sit-ups in the water. It's proper like army man stuff. And it's really, it's so tiring. It's so tiring. But see the buzz you get after you finish one of the events, the buzz on the bus, the crack, and the relief, and the getting through it with a bunch of people. I don't really follow follow that much RT kind of Southern media. So there's a lot of guys down there that I wouldn't have known of or heard about. So they were just random people to me. But now I know they're kind of like yoga influencers or I know content creators,
Also, it's just very different from what you were saying earlier. It wasn't just like 20-year-old. Exactly.
But great bunch, really great experience. Just go in there and meet some totally different types of people to myself. Great people.
When did you do it? Were you asked to do it, or did you apply?
No, I was asked to do it.
Cool.
And then myself and Barry kind of went back and forth, and then I said to Barry, I'll do it if you do it, and he was like, right, okay, we'll do it. It'll give us something to talk about anyway. Yeah. And then one of the hardest, we got one of the hardest things that we got through in the Friday night was it was a simulated kidnapping. They put your bag over your head.
This is what she told me, sort of the torture and all as well, in the ears, like baby crying and stuff.
Oh, I didn't make that. That was on the last day. No, I didn't make that. But yeah, so that looked pretty miserable.
But you've no idea you're in the dark and all that.
Horrible. But we got kind of cable tied to the floor, and then they start flooding the room. So then you think because you got a bag over your head, you don't know what's going on. They eventually take the bag off your head, and then they're pouring this water into the room, and you're thinking, well, I've got about 5 minutes here before I drown. But every rational thought in your body says, obviously, it's an RTE show. You're not gonna die on RTE.
This is not where I die. But still, when you're in it.
but still, it feels very much like, everything's telling me here this water is going to come up. But if you kind of keep your nerve, you get through that okay. And then it was the hike on the following day, just loads of weight in your rucksack. You haven't slept. And my legs were totally jelly by the end of it. Well, by the end of it, I only got like a fraction of the way through it and I was done. But yeah, and then everything, all the emotion comes out, and you're sitting on top of this mountain down in West Cork, about 7 hours drive from home. And I was like, I can't wait to see the kids. Not on TV. I waited for the camera to go away and then started crying.
That's when everything's stripped back, isn't it? That's whenever you're like, what is life? What is my life? Like, what is my purpose?
It's a great experience. It's a brilliant. Now, everything I described there sounds miserable. Why would you do what I just described? But it is a brilliant experience.
You feel alive, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it's like, I work from home now. I leave the kids to school and then I walk back and then I work from home. I don't
tie yourself to cables to the floor.
No one tries to drown me most days. It's a nice change up, something different.
Oh, good. Well done you. I will. I look forward to watching it. I'm sure I can watch it in playback or something.
Yeah, you get it. No problem. I'm sure.
Well, tell me then about your podcast and where people can find it, and then about the app, anywhere else or on social media where they can find you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, perfect. So we, it's our podcast is called Potholes and Penguins.
I like it.
I'll give you a bit of an insight into where that came from. So when you're playing rugby, people will talk about potholes, and it's maybe not that widely known a term, but potholes in rugby is basically anybody who comes up and tries to be your friend because you play for Ulster, play for Ireland. They put their arm around you and they tell you what you should have done right or should have done differently. And they're potholes basically because you just have to try and avoid them your whole life.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
So, and then the other thing was we used to, on our previous podcast we did before with Joe.ie, we both loved Game of Thrones, as everybody loves.
No, I don't like it at all. Oh, it's dreadful. It's dreadful.
You need to go back.
Don't worry about your podcast and talk about how dreadful it is.
Don't worry about Hell Week. Go back and watch Game of Thrones to do yourself more a favor.
Right.
And this won't make sense to you anyway. There's a character in Game of Thrones who's called Varys. He's a eunuch. He's got lots of little birds, he calls them, in all the different parts of the kingdom. So we wanted to incentivize our listeners, or kind of task our listeners, mobilize them.
Okay.
We wanted to find out who's injured, who's available for selection this weekend, what's the gossip, who's what's going on behind the scenes. But we thought birds was too complimentary, so we called our listeners penguins. We thought it'd be just slightly more offensive.
Slightly more offensive. Yeah, exactly. Because they don't fly. They don't even.
Exactly. So we were like, potholes and penguins kind of sums us up a little bit. We talk.
Penguin of the two of you. You're a penguin.
No, that's important. That's a good question. Actually, we all have a nice tension, a nice hybrid of pothole and penguin. It's like the yin and yang. You can't be completely pothole and you can't be.
Oh, that's good. Well, I look forward to listening to that. And then, are you on social or tell me the app name again before I miss my son's school pickup?
Kairos, Kairos.
Okay, cool. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Ali.
I've that for a while, so I appreciate you doing that. And just a real quick piece of advice for anybody who is building a career, I don't know, even if they're maybe in sports team, whatever, just any individual. What's your piece of life advice?
Back yourself. So my big thing was I was always a confidence player and I always had to have confidence, and then I tricked myself into being more confident than I actually was. And then I realized you're actually a bit more capable than you think you are. So yeah, back yourself and do something weird. And ultimately, if you work hard at it, you'll be good at it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Have a good day. And thank you for joining me.
Sound. Take it easy, Ali.
I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for taking the time to listen. And if you want to check out more of my paintings, I would love you to do so. You can check out alihart.com. There's so much more on my website. There's my YouTube channel. And if you really are serious about building your creative practice, then my mentorship program is only 4 weeks long, and it's a really good foundation to set you up no matter what stage you're at for projecting forward so that you can be the successful creative that you're intended to be. Either way, have a great day, and thanks again for giving me your time.